What's up, moviegoers and true believers? Welcome to another episode of the Real Comics Podcast. I'm your host, Voodoo57, and with me back again is Speedy G33. Man, you've been under the weather. How are you doing? What's going on, man?
Back from the dead. Still have my lumberjack cut.
That's a scruffy, rough-looking beard.
I'm gonna kill serious razor blades when I finally cut this thing, which might not be till the weekend because I just don't have
razor blades. You got like yourself one of those
clippers
knives.
Yeah, I'm gonna use clippers and razor blades. And,
scrape that face. All right, for those who don't know, real quick. For those who don't know, real quick, Speedy G was under the weather for a little bit, so we had to take a little bit of a hiatus. But we are back, and we are back with a double feature tonight, my friend. We are calling tonight's podcast, It Ain't Easy Being Green, our review of Teenage Mutant Ninjas 2 Out of the Shadows, as well as World of Warcraft.
I think I was green back on Monday.
I bet you were. But as always, folks, if you've been with us, you know how we start. We hit you up with a little bit of news. So let's get started with that. Speedy G, what you got first on the old news? Twitter feeds, Facebook board posts, wherever. What are you seeing out there?
Well, on the good note, I picked a couple of good weeks to not be feeling so hot because it didn't seem like a lot of action happened. I mean, there was action in the video game world, but that's really not my genre, and too much of it didn't really hit the comic book movies. So there was comic book news, actual comic books, and there was very little casting news here and there. I'm going to go with the big story of the last 24 hours is pretty much that Donald Glover has been cast in Spider-Man, and all the fanboys are losing their mind that he's going to be Miles. He's not going to be Miles, guys. He's too old to be Miles. Miles is supposed to be younger than Peter. It's not going to happen. He's going to be a teacher or some kind of bit character. It's a nice little cameo to a guy who's a great Spider-Man fan. Good for the franchise. It's creating buzz because you guys are all talking about him. And yeah, kind of cool, but he's not going to be Miles. Sorry.
Right. I heard about this too. I actually think this is quite cool, but for a different reason. My daughter came to me and said, "Dad, do you know who this is?" And I said, "Well, he's been in, what was he in The Martian, I believe, right? Was it The Martian? He's been in a movie or two." Yeah.
I know him from TV.
Yeah. Or you know him from television. Well, guess where my daughter knows him? He is a big time rapper and he's had a couple of albums out. As a matter of fact, she's chose one of his more older songs as her possible new walk-up song for her softball career. So she was blown away that he was picked for this as well. So I think that's why the chatter is so heavy on this. You're getting it from all genres. TV, music,
Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, and that too.
Spider-Man all the time. Everyone is fan. He's been fan cast as Miles Morales for probably the last 4 years. So yeah, and so of course the buzz. You've seen pictures of people saying, "Yeah, perfect Miles," but he's not going to be Miles. He's just not. That's the only unfortunate thing. He's too old. That window passed. It's sad when that window passed for certain actors, like Nathan Fillion being Hal Jordan. That window passed. You know, some of those things happen. It's just the way it is.
Totally agree. But I like the casting choice. I definitely think he's going to add something to the movie.
Yeah. And another casting possibility rumor that's flipping around is we're getting set photos from the Wolverine movie, the new Wolverine movie. Right. And there's a little girl on set with him in multiple scene, shots. They're showing him a scene. She has some blood. She's wearing jeans. She looks like she's about 10, 11 maybe. And someone came across a casting sheet that was asking for a character named Zoe, but of course they use fake names, so it still could be Laura. And it describes Laura Kinney, who is what X-23. The characteristics are very similar. It talks about a little girl that's been trained to be a weapon. She's feral. She has all these animalistic things. So maybe we're getting some kind of X-23. Now this is just speculation on people's part. This could just be a little girl in the movie. You know what I mean? It could be something like X-23 because Fox is notorious for doing this. They do this in their movies, like the bad Deadpool, not the new Deadpool, the bad Deadpool, the bad Emma Frost. You know, just showing these characters briefly and then throwing them away. It'd be really, really bad if they did this with Laura. But at the same time, you just cast an unknown little girl to play this part. So I really don't know what Fox is up to if this really is Laura.
Well, this will be interesting, that's for sure. I also read this, and I read a little bit more. As a matter of fact, leaning towards the title of this movie, which kind of threw some people off. I don't know if this may fit under your bullshit story of the week as well, but I also read that initial thoughts or titling could be Weapon X, thus leading into X-23. What are your thoughts on that?
It is going to be Weapon X. I mean, the Old Man Logan thing finally got dispelled. I always had a hard time believing they were going to do Old Man Logan, because the world building necessary to do that, because it's not set in modern times, it's set in a post-apocalyptic world, and none of the other X-Men movies have set that up at all. So there'd be a lot of setup, and you couldn't really do that in one movie, and we know Hugh Jackman's doing one movie. So yeah, this makes more sense, more of like an old Logan handing over the reins to a young Laura. Like I said, I'm just worried, does this little girl have the chops? When you cast this position, this is like all the effort they put into young Spider-Man. You have to get the right person. All the effort you put into young Han Solo, all the effort I hope DC puts into when they finally do bring Damian Wayne, a young Robin, into their world. You have to really pick a kid that can carry a movie, and he can stand up with these known actors. And I have no idea who this little girl is. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. I have no idea.
I saw a couple of them. The pictures weren't that great to me, the ones that I saw. But still, she could just be a little girl. We could be reaching. I mean, this still could just be a little girl in the movie.
Exactly right.
We could be reaching
or some kind of mixture of Weapon X. Of X-23.
Right.
Not really her. Yeah. So who knows? Like I said, Fox takes a lot of liberties with what they do. Like sewed up is Deadpool. Just always remember that. Sewed up Deadpool.
I know, but I always give these movies hope, and I particularly, I didn't think it was great, but I did enjoy the last Wolverine movie. So if the usual suspects around, I'm hoping that the story will be at least as good. That's the best I can hope for, because let's face it, it is Fox. And you're right. Yeah. They do throw things to the wayside. It is. I
love Hugh Jackman. Could you imagine him on screen for 20 minutes arguing with Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr.?
Oh, that'd be great.
How sweet that would be. Just, him being the Wolverine that he is, that's cocky, willing to flip you off, telling you to fuck off, on the screen with a Robert Downey Jr. snarkiness and a very serious Chris. I mean, that would be beautiful.
I could see Hugh Jackman putting out a cigar butt on Robert Downey Jr.'s expensive counter and going, "How do you like that, bub?"
Yeah.
Something like that would be great. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Very cool. That's good Wolverine stuff. All right. What do you got next?
That's really it. I mean, I know I'm missing something small, but everything's been comic related. A real huge push on all the DC comics. Oh, I know. This you might not know a lot about, but this is a series I read many years ago, and it's called Rising Stars. I read it with a friend of mine that we both know, a mutual friend named Eric, and it is a really great series. This is an independent label. This is not Marvel. This is not DC, and it's a really interesting comic, and it's being adapted now for a movie, and it's being adapted by the writer, and the writer Michael J. I can't say his last name. It's Stavankowitz or something like that, and I'm butchering it. He's also written a lot of movies and television shows. Ones you'd know, but they're not coming to my head right now. Anyway, it's being turned into a movie, and so there's some excitement for me, because that was a really good comic book. People that know the comic book know it has a great premise. Basically, some kind of fallout from a meteor happens over this small town, and any of the children that were in urethro at the moment, that were in the process of somewhere in a pregnancy, get superpowers. So this whole generation of kids get superpowers, and how the government takes them over, takes them from their family, raises them, all these interesting things. It's a really cool, interesting series, and I'm going to say it's about 5 graphic novels worth of comics.
Man,
I have them. Cool. Really good.
We're going to have to check those out. You're going to have to lend those over here. I'm going to check those out. Shoot them over. Figure out how to do that. I butchered
his name.
No worries, man. No worries whatsoever. All right, cool. So if we're done with the regular news, what do you say we do our Star Wars Minute?
Yay, Star Wars.
Hey, Star Wars. Dun, dun. I mean, later on, I'm sure we'll have the theme, whatever.
Mhm.
All right, let's get into the Star Wars minute. Okay, so you know what, Speedy G, you're gonna have to help me through this. I've got a lot to talk about, but it's not about the movies for a change. We've got nothing but Star Wars gameplay to talk about this week. Of course, E3 has been going on all week. It's huge, and a lot of Star Wars stuff is happening now that EA has gotten a hold of a lot of the rights to a lot of the Star Wars content. Let me just give you a list of some of the companies who are putting in an effort to get these games going, all right? So, of course, you got EA, you got DICE, you got Motive, Respawn, Capital Games, BioWare, Visceral Games, and, of course, you know, LucasArts is always on top. This is insane. All these companies working to bring you some of the best stuff. But the top things that were announced at E3 were, of course, the new Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens game. If you are a Lego game-playing fan, of course, the Star Wars ones are extremely popular with both kids and adults. I equate the Lego stuff to like Pokemon. A lot of adults actually play this stuff still to this day. My kids have some of the content. They play them. You know, they range from 16 on up to 20 to 21. I've played a couple from time to time. They are fun. They're silly. I mean, it's Legos, man. You can't go wrong. It's Legos. The other big news is Star Wars Battlefront. There are two things on this particular front and this video game that I'm actually really excited about. I have had some experience with the Battlefront play, which I do enjoy. I just can't afford to have that game is just difficult to have in your possession. There's a lot that goes on with that, with fees and such. But they're adding Bespin gameplay, which is very interesting. So they're adding the Cloud City level and mode. That's really exciting. Of course, that means that we're going to have Lando Calrissian, and all that holds. Anything that happened during that time period will be involved in this game. The pre-trailer and some of the concept art for this is out. It looks amazing. That looks really good. But the big new one. Let me real quickly say there's going to be another update to Star Wars: The Old Republic, which I still play from time to time. That is a multiplayer online game, and that one is fun to play. You can go Jedi or you can go Sith. I feel like I'm rambling on here. There's just so much, but the big one, the big thing that's blowing people away is a VI version of Star Wars Battlefront where you take on X-Wing missions. Now, if you don't know what VR is, I think all of our friends and fans and anybody watching probably does. It's where you take your device, whatever it may be, and there will be one for each of these systems now, and you put on a set of goggles, and in a virtual world, you will be piloting the X-Wing. So you will not only be going left or right with the craft itself, but you will also have your head on a swivel to where you can see in real time the vehicles, planets, anything necessary to your left, to your right, to behind you. It's just very natural, and it is blowing people away. They had some test runs of it there. I wish there was more video of it, but it looks amazing. So all this Star Wars news, man, I know you're not a huge game player right now, but what do you think about all this content that's being shoved out and these companies that are involved? It's got to be pretty huge. What are your thoughts?
It's about time. It seems like there really hasn't been that much good Star Wars games in a while. It's like they died. Other than the one last year right at Christmas, the Battlefront, it seems like there really hasn't been anything. So I guess everyone's been holding it for this big explosion of Star Wars games, like you said. Let's see how many get done before the movie comes out, because that's the rush. They want to, capitalize on the movie money. And of course, they don't all want to come out at the same time, because then they cannibalize each other,
right.
Take money from each other.
But timing is definitely one of the top things I heard being discussed. They do want these out as soon as possible, or at least one of them or two of them prior to the next movie being released. That VR game, man, that's going to be an expensive game to play. Those goggles are going to be ridiculously expensive, but from what we saw there in a little test footage, it will be amazing. Man, I can't tell you. I'm excited. You're right. I think you and I probably, if it wasn't for Battlefront, the last Star Wars game that was any good, because that's always kind of been the knock, was probably Galaxies way back in the day when you and I played that prior to the whole changeover stuff. You know, when I mean,
I like Knights of the Old Republic.
I do too.
I'm a big fan of that. I still have it. I have a game, and I can't remember the name of it. I'm looking over there to see that you gave me for Christmas a billion years ago that was a knockoff of Warcraft, which is funny because we're going to do Warcraft tonight. Not World of Warcraft, Warcraft, the original game, except it had Star Wars stuff. So you were like trying to take over Cloud City, but it's the same way, the way you build things up in Warcraft, and you're farming, and you got to create, you know, your resources, and just, you know, same exactly like Warcraft, total Warcraft ripoff, but it was a Star Wars game, and it was pretty fun because I liked Warcraft, so I had fun with it for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, those were the last two that I really played. Battlefront. We have the Lego one. I put it in once in a while. I think I have it. Has all I have all the 6 movies on our Lego one. But yeah, we're not big Star Wars guys, I guess. I remember. Oh, you know what else? What's it called? The one with that guy who takes down the.
Oh yeah, the Force Unleashed.
Yeah, Force Unleashed.
Yeah,
that's a great one, and that'd be neat if that character ever made it to a movie too. To be honest.
Well, that's a big fan favorite now. He's what I would call the new Boba Fett. So, excuse me. Yeah, definitely. There's so much going on that I hope these things get released and these companies come through and they get them out there. That's for sure, man. Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, are you ready to move on?
Yeah, I think so, because I didn't see as much of the gaming stuff. I used that opportunity to take a rest. So, yeah, I'm a little behind on the gaming stuff, and I'm sure there's some really neat stuff that I'll catch when it comes out.
For sure. I know we're going to get into some stuff for sure, especially with Christmas just down the road. I'm definitely going to want to be playing these Battlefront games. The VR one would be nice. Hopefully a friend picks that up and I can borrow it, but we shall definitely see. All right. What do you say we move on to the new fan favorite, the show favorite, bullshit story of the week, or should we say of last week? Of last week.
Technically, I didn't find a good bullshit story this week. I'm sure there's one, but I went under it. But I got a good one for last week that I just couldn't help. Even in my drug haze stupor, I was like, people believe in this shit? The whole Channing Tatum is going to be Green Lantern in the DCU nonsense. You know, basically, some site who's stalking the new director for the Flash movie, you know, because that's how they kind of discovered that he was going to be the director of Flash, because all of a sudden, he followed everybody who was important for DC on his Twitter. And then like a day later, he got announced as the director for the new Flash movie. And everyone's like, whoa. So I guess one of the people he followed on all of his following was Channing Tatum. So since he followed Channing Tatum, the deduction is that Channing Tatum must be Green Lantern. Okay. Channing Tatum's with Fox. Channing Tatum is still kind of somehow involved with the Gambit mess. We're talking about the farthest of farthest reaches, and it's just bad casting anyway. He doesn't seem like, if you look at the people that have been cast for most of the roles in the DCU, they're not kind of jokey guys, and that's what Channing is. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure he can be serious when he has to be serious. I've seen his serious movies, but he's still kind of more with comedic chops. These are, you know, there's no, remember, this is DC, no fun allowed. And he just doesn't fit. He didn't fit, and it was flimsy, but people were kind of running with it. And that was like all I could keep saying to myself is that it's even through my stupor of sickness.
It is the
bullshit.
The bullshit story of the week. Channing Tatum as the DC version of how. Okay, no, I would agree. That is definitely worthy of the emoji poo for the bullshit story of the week. Very cool. Anything else on the bullshit story of the week?
No, that was it.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Channing Tatum, good luck with that, by the way. If you're out there and you're listening, man, yeah, good luck with trying to pull both of those off. Yeah.
I don't know
crap.
I don't know what's more of a risk, trying to get this Gambit movie off the thing or following Ryan Reynolds on is Green Lantern. Both of them are going to be a challenge, you know.
Whatever it is, it's not going to be pretty, and that's why I'm not looking forward to either. Whether one's true or not, it's no. Just stick to those movies where you're with Jonah Hill and all that other fun stuff, and we'll go from there. That's what I say. All right, very cool. Are we ready to move on?
Yes. Woo.
All right, folks. We are about to review 2 movies for you this evening. The first one, Turtles 2. Out of the Shadows, and the second one is Warcraft. We're going to start with the Turtle one, and if you haven't been with us before, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about this thing spoiler-free, and if it's necessary, we'll get into some spoilers. We're going to start with the Turtles, I believe, however, this evening. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the description and let you know all about it, and give you a quick description before we get into it, then I'll throw it on over to Speedy G. So here is our first review, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows.
No, you got to say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Cool. All right, here we go. The Turtles face a new challenge when Shredder escapes from custody and joins forces with Baxter Stockman, a mad scientist who plans to use his serum to take over the world. Along for the ride are Bebop and Rocksteady, 2 dim-witted henchmen who provide plenty of muscle. Luckily, the Turtles have their own allies in April O'Neil and Vermin Fenwick, as well as Casey Jones, the hockey masked vigilante. As the pizza-loving heroes prepare for battle, the notorious Krang also emerges to pose an even greater threat. All right, I'm not even going to get into the cast for this one. I'm just going to say, you know what? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Speedy G33, what did you think? Give us your opinion, and go for it.
I had fun with this movie. I really did. I enjoyed it. We laughed a lot. We saw this when we were up on our vacation trip, and I liked it. I mean, it's a cartoon. I felt like this movie took the attitude like, we're basing it on the cartoon, and our plot's going to be about as flimsy and as intellectual as a cartoon. And you can either go along for the ride and laugh and watch fart jokes and or you can be like, this is stupid. So I chose to go for the ride, and we had fun. We laughed a lot, and yeah, it was a good time. So that's my thought. I give it a good score. I mean, yes, this isn't something that you have to put on your must-own list, but it was a good time for a summer movie.
And so, are you recommending this film or thumbs up?
Yeah, I'd recommend it. I'd give it a thumbs up. I'd give it about a 3. Just a 3. What's that come out to? About a 60, a 6?
Right around in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not horrible. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, if I could sit here, I could nitpick the hell out of it. The dialogue. The people are not very good. When it's the people and not the turtles, they're not very good, which is going to be a theme tonight when I talk about the people are not very good, and the characters, the animated stuff are much better. But I thought Armel was kind of about what he gives us in Arrow. He's not that great of an actor. He's an okay actor. What's his name made me chuckle a couple times. I can't remember Medea's name right now.
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry, he made me chuckle a few times. And yeah, I mean, it was very silly. The ending was a bit of a letdown, but that's been a common theme all summer. It seems like endings have been a letdown. So,
right.
Yeah, but I recommend it. I laughed a lot. Bebop and Rocksteady were hilarious, man. They were just really well done.
Cool.
So I want more of them.
All right. So on my end, I don't think I loved it as much as you did, but I can't quite say I hated it. I just didn't love it. Or I don't want to use the word love. Let's take that back. I didn't like it as much as you did and or enjoy it as much as you did. I tried to look at it from that cartoon kid comic book standpoint. You're right. Bebop and Rocksteady did give me a few chuckles, but I fell flat. I was bored before halfway through this, but I stuck it out because there were a couple of moments that did make me smile. It was cool to see Krang on screen, just in real life. Okay, so I mean that brought back a little bit of memories, and of course the Turtles, they can be funny. but you're right. The people, the actual actors, the people are stale.
Yeah.
Very stale, and I think we'll talk more about that later as well. But I would probably go even a little bit lower. Unfortunately, I'd probably say 2 to 2.5 for me. I can't recommend it for an adult necessarily, but I'm telling you, if you're a parent and you have kids and you're looking for something fun to do, you are right here, Speedy G. Take your kids, go see this. I could see where they would have a lot of fun because there were kids having fun. So
my daughter laughed. She really laughed a lot. She had a blast. She came out of there happy and smiling, singing the song. And I told you before, this is the first superhero / comic movie we've got this year that is geared towards kids. That's another thing to keep in mind. We've come off of Batman, Superman, very dark, very dreary, very serious. Then Civil War hits us over the head with a very serious film that includes, the death of Iron Man's mom. And then, X-Men was a bit complex for a child to kind of understand all that was going on. So the Turtles just being very straightforward. There's a bad guy, there's good guys, even though the plot makes zero sense and why are they even doing this? For a kid, I think it was just all the flash and the bang and the lights and the pizza and the skateboarding. You know what I mean? Right. So for what it was supposed to be, I think it did a really good job.
Right. And let's not forget Shredder's back, so to speak.
Yeah, things like when they're in their truck and they're chasing down that other armored truck. That was a fun action sequence, and there was a few other fun action sequences.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't mind it. I can't recommend it for adults, but I definitely do if we're talking about parents with kids. And you're right, this is definitely a children's movie. I mean, I don't know much more about what we can say. Do you want to get into spoilers even? I mean, there's really not much.
No, there really isn't. I mean, I'd equate it to if you liked the Scooby-Doo movies, for example, something like that.
I don't know. I like the first Scooby-Doo movie.
It's kind of in that vein of like the silliness and that you have characters with live action. Yeah, I think Scooby-Doo was better actually. But if you like that type of movie and you don't mind and you understand that this is very, very silly, and you accept silly and I guess that's what I did. I accepted silly going in. And I don't know, we just took it as a night out. We'd had a long day doing stuff, and it was just nice to just sit there, eat popcorn, and kind of laugh. So, yeah.
I try to do the same. Sometimes I can get away with it. Like I said, don't get me wrong. There were times I found myself with a quick chuckle or a laugh, but definitely, I don't know. I want to bring this up towards I don't want to talk about it now, but I have something to bring up towards the end as far as these two movies are concerned. But like I said, Megan Fox, I don't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The people
they were really bad.
They were stale. And I almost wanted them to just not be there anymore. And I just wanted more Turtles. I wanted more bickering between the brothers. I wanted, they were very enjoyable, and they're really developing the characters well. I feel like I know each turtle really well, and I want more of that. There's no doubt I want more of them. And then, like I said, Bebop and Rocksteady, they were spot on for me. They were just really funny and stupid and, all the things you wanted from them, but also brute power. It was good from that point, No,
definitely an accurate assessment. I would agree with you there. When they give us just a Turtles movie, maybe I think that I will be more into it. I think you're right there. I think this is the one time where simplicity would have worked a lot more, and if they would have maybe, I know you can't, but if they would just focus on the Turtles and themselves and leave all the other people out of it, as little as possible. I know you can't, but if you can, and what I'm thinking of, and I just lost my train of thought, because there are times when you want just that group and it works, and that's what I'm hoping may happen in the future, because I think it would work better. Let's take a movie like
hard, because you have to sell an actor or an actress nowadays. So you're selling Megan Fox and Stephen Amell because you really have to sell some name attached to it to get people in there. And when you sell the Turtles themselves, yes, the little kids are like, "Mom, take me to the Turtles."
Yeah, I don't think you need them. I don't think you need to do that though. And I'll give you a good example. here's a good example that I was kind of leaning towards next. So we had 2 really good Despicable Me movies, and then the Minions came out. And for those who haven't seen the Minions, I'm going to tell you right now, I'll give you a quick review. Here's an extra. That was a bad movie.
It wasn't very good.
It wasn't very good. It wasn't funny, and they focused on just them, and it didn't work. I believe the Turtles could make it work, is what I'm saying here.
Yeah, that's an interesting example, and that's because you don't have the heart, the relationship between Gru and the girls, and that's what makes Despicable Me something special.
Exactly.
The Minions are great within the context of that, but like you said, a whole movie of just the Minions, it's like, okay, what there's not much you Minions do. So there's not, but Despicable Me works because of that story between Gru and the girls, you know, him becoming their parent, and then the second movie getting them a mom, that whole thing. That's what makes that movie special.
Yeah, but for sure. I mean, like I said, if they could just find a way, I think we might get a little bit more. Very cool.
Yeah, we're going to get another one. It won its opening week, and it made pretty good money considering where it came out. It beat X-Men. So, yeah, it did okay. We're going to get another one. I'm pretty sure.
Very cool. All right, so with no real spoilers to talk about, I think we've kind of recommended this. You have recommended, I recommended if you have children or if children are going to see it, it's definitely not too bad there. For sure, definitely. Are you just about ready? Just get situated here. To move on to our next of the double feature, Warcraft.
Let's see, what do we talk about now? Warcraft. Not World of Warcraft.
No, Warcraft.
The peaceful realm of Azeroth stands on the brink of war as its civilization faces a fearsome race of invaders. Orc warriors fleeing their dying home to colonize another. As portals open to connect the 2 worlds, one army faces destruction and the other faces distinction. From the opposite sides, 2 heroes are set on a collision course that will decide the fate of their family, their people, and their home. Warcraft for the Horde.
For the Alliance. No, I'm usually a Horde player. Cool. All right, so I guess you're tossing this one to me then.
Yes.
To start off with. Okay, this one's going to be a very difficult review for me, and I'll tell you why. This in itself, as a movie as a whole, unfortunately, much like our last film that we just discussed, had a very stale human cast. Mm-hmm. I didn't empathize with anybody. I didn't feel bad for anybody. And from that standpoint, I did not enjoy this movie. However, that being said, if you don't already know, I'm still a Warcraft player, and there was some stuff in this movie that I went, oh, I know that. Oh, I had that armor. Hey, I remember this. I know that plot. They did a really good job of at least capturing that sense of the game itself. Mm-hmm. That was kind of fun to see. So again, you know, for me, I can't fully recommend this movie. I did also find myself kind of really, because it is Warcraft and I do play the game, I kept hoping that the next thing would take me and pick me back up. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And it just kept going flat. It was like, you know, when somebody dies and you just hear the machine go beep. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I felt about the whole film, unfortunately. There were some really great moments, again, for fans of the game and lore. I did at least empathize with the CGI characters, which seem to have more personality than our actual actors on screen. So, you know, if I had to give it a number score, as we were discussing earlier, it would also receive about a 2 to a 2.5. But if you are a fan, here's where I'm split. If you are a fan of the game and you're heavily into it, you may enjoy some of this film. Speedy G, what say you on Warcraft?
I'm not that low as you. I'm probably going to also give it about a 3. Yeah. I like Turtles better. I think Turtles had more joy.
I would say that.
Turtles was a little bit, it just was a lot more fun. Warcraft, the orcs were amazing, I think. That's one thing. I agree with you. The people were stale. There was a lot of strange casting choices. Just a lot of yeah, there's nothing to invest with the people. But with the orcs, I was invested. I was invested with the major character for the orcs, and I was, we'll get into spoilers later. I almost threw a spoiler out there, but so yeah, their story was interesting and they looked good. I really believed that the orcs were good. When they were fighting, you felt the power of how strong they were. When they were just lying down, hanging out, the skin, the way it kind of moved, and it looked real. As real as you can expect it to look for this type of movie. Now, I also played WoW, but I came at this from a very different perspective. I didn't come at it from a video game perspective, and I think the problems with this movie don't have anything to do with a video game. There's a lot of talk about, well, video games fail or didn't hit the mark with video games. I think it's something completely different. The two biggest things that form my entertainment likes as a child is growing up. One was comics, which we obviously know, that's why we do this show and everything. But the other one was sword and sorcery / Dungeons and Dragons. I grew up with that stuff and I love that stuff to death. And until Lord of the Rings, it has not been done properly. There's been many efforts and many failures. And now even after Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit didn't do very well. And we have Game of Thrones doing a good job. But other than Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, I think it's a very difficult genre to pull off. Because if you don't do it right, and especially the human characters didn't do it right, it's boring or it's cheesy as hell. It's right. One of the two. And I think it's a combination of these worlds are vast, these worlds are complex. When you read these books, because Warcraft is a game, yes, but there's books. It's not like they pulled this from nowhere. There are books about the series. And there's a lot of lore. It's just very hard to translate that into a 2-hour movie because, what Peter Jackson did was special, and he still doesn't get enough credit, and he should have got more Oscars.
Right.
Because it's a very difficult thing to get you to care about dwarves and elves and magic and believe it and dragons and all this stuff. And Warcraft tried to do that. And when you have a bar set that high with Lord of the Rings, and then we're watching Game of Thrones, and even Game of Thrones, they didn't give you the dragons till like almost season 2. They just give you a little hint. And then it just fell. It didn't have enough. I think he tried. He really did. I think there's something there. And I know we're going to get more movies. We can get into this later. Right. I know we're going to get more movies. And I think there's some good possibilities for this series. But yeah, they didn't get it done. And it's unfortunate.
I think they missed the mark. I think you're right. I think they missed the mark story-wise and entertainment-wise, let's kind of say.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a decent jumping-off point. If when they make the sequel, I won't mind going to see it. Whereas, luckily the Ninja Turtles kind of came through because I saw the first one and I didn't want to see the second one. So I think that there's enough there. And I think the biggest problem with this is, here's where you're right. How do I say this? They expected you to understand the world already. And this is where Peter Jackson and even Game of Thrones sets you off in a good place, is because it starts you off softly. Think back to Lord of the Rings, okay? Mm-hmm. They tell you a story of the past, and then they give you Frodo and his friends, and it's quiet, and they move on to something a bit beyond them before mm-hmm. the dark and the storm and everything. Here you got it all at once. Here we got it all at once. You're expected to understand. You're kind of expected mm-hmm. to know what's going on. You're kind of expected to come to terms with these two factions are fighting, and here's why. What do you think of that assessment?
Yeah,
You're forced to do it in one movie.
But I think it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. If they spend the first half hour trying to explain to you all this shit, you'd be like, "Oh, get on with the movie."
Very true. Very true.
Like, I didn't come here for a history lesson. So I think, like you said, with one movie, it's hard. And Lord of the Rings, first of all, source material. It's the best source material.
Right. It's the best.
So that has a lot to do with it too. But he interpreted very well, and the screenwriting on that is amazing. To boil that down, to give us what they gave us. but I really do believe it's the genre. I tried to watch the Shannara Chronicles, or the Elven thing by Terry Brooks that's on MTV.
Right.
It's based on a very famous sword and sorcery series. It didn't hit me either. It's just so hard. And that's a series. They could build it up slow like Game of Thrones is doing. It's just so hard to get that right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you don't get it right, it really looks bad. You know?
Right. No, I totally agree with you. Totally agree. I think we're in agreement here. So are you still giving this one kind of a recommend, or what?
Yeah,
what are you
because there's some interesting things. I think the orcs are pretty awesome. The battles are pretty cool. I like the magic. I can't say I like the actors doing the magic, but I like the magic. Again, the ending made absolutely no sense. We'll get into that with spoilers. The ending was horrible. Yes, as a gamer, they have to be given a major pat on the back for the detail put into that. I mean, down to the little things in Ironforge, the little things in Stormwind, the little things in Goldshire. I mean, still simple things like where the Griffin landed. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, how many times have I landed?
Right
done
there,
that landing, seen that scene, you know, just there was a lot of neat things about it. You know, the Fell looked real and the Arcane looked real. And yeah, I think you really paid a good effort. And, you know, we're getting to this because this is a topic that I think is really important, that is kind of separate from the movie. This is a game changer, though, because of the money this is made in China. Mm-hmm. That's the articles I'm seeing today.
Well,
flop, but blockbuster.
Right.
And this is the kind of thing that can change things, where they say, well, we're not making this movie for the U.S. and we make a second Warcraft, and we really don't care. Like, they may cast it in, they might not even make it in English. They might just choose to say the hell with you guys. Right. And if that makes the money it could make, you think that might not be the first show? We are getting so fickle here in the States. I mean, these critics, I mean, I know that's part of their job, but are slamming movie after movie after movie. I mean, what's gotten a good score this summer? I mean, X-Men got a shit score. You enjoyed X-Men.
Yep.
Batman vs. Superman got a shit score. I enjoyed Batman vs. Superman. I mean, it just seems like everything's getting a crap score. And we're so jaded and negative here, and China's gobbling all this stuff up. Bollywood might be saying, the hell with you guys.
Well, Europe generally, let's just say Asia, Japan, all those usually gobble this kind of stuff up. I remember we discussed this prior. The Terminator movie, for some reason, did really well over there, but of course bombed here. But let me point out something here real quick. Let's not forget, in China, the biggest and most spam that comes from anywhere within the World of Warcraft game, people that are actually running bots, people that have actually died mining for stuff to make money to live on in real life, because they're in these arcade kind of games, just playing and farming WoW. It's generally China. So it's already part of their culture, as part of not just part of their job. I mean, think about it. There are. I mean, if you don't know already, people, if you're listening and you're tuning in and you don't know already about the what goes on over there, much like a sweatshop, there are kids, even adults, people of all ages, farming fake currency within the World of Warcraft game to earn real currency to live on. And very little, and they play for hours.
And they sell them to lazy. They sell them to lazy American kids.
They sell them to lazy American and UK
so
kids.
You spend $20 for like 2,000 fake money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, stuff like that, or it might even be more than that. I don't know.
It's insane, but I think that's why it does have a little bit. I think that's why the popularity in China is.
But what I didn't know until I read today is that they actually partnered. The studio, who's the studio that did this? Legendary? I don't know who did this, but they partnered. There is a Chinese investor in this movie, and they put up some major money in this. So therefore, the way they marketed this in China is an American movie's never been marketed like this before.
Yeah.
Supposedly they marketed this to everywhere. They didn't just market it to the large metropolitan areas like they do with the movies in the States. So everybody went to see this thing.
Yeah.
So if they get more invested in this, so it becomes like 50%. Even Jackie Chan spoke at a thing today about it. How the West should be scared is because now they might start making the movies in Chinese.
Right.
So it is a game changer, and we're going to get another one. Recast. Like, why don't you have Englishmen playing all these roles? That's one of the things that was done with Lord of the Rings, and is pretty much done with Game of Thrones. The accents make us believe some of this crap a little more. Like, I don't know, it feels more. Don't ask me why, but it does. It feels more realistic hearing these.
I think regardless of the accents, it's something that you brought up once in one of our past podcasts. I hate to keep going backwards, but let's face it, no offense to American actors, we do have some great ones, but the British actors care more about their craft than the dollar bill, which is, and I was telling this to somebody in a story when we were discussing Band of Brothers, one of my favorite television series from HBO of all time, which I watch religiously every year.
Some of those guys are Brits.
Most of those guys are Brits, not some. Yeah. Most are, and they are playing Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most of these guys, as a matter of fact, thinking back, Michael Fassbender was in Band of Brothers. Mm-hmm. The guy who currently, or at least has in the past, played the Moriarty character on the BBC version of Sherlock Holmes with Cumberbatch. He's in Band of Brothers. I could go on and on. There are a cast of characters from the movies Snitch and
the lead
Lock,
commander,
Stock, and Barrel.
The redheaded guy who was also in Homeland. He's a Brit.
Yeah.
He plays the main guy of the whole platoon.
Right. Winters. He plays Winters.
Yeah, he plays Winters. Yeah, he's a Brit.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's a lot of them. It's amazing.
But again,
a few Brits in this movie wouldn't hurt. Let's just say.
Exactly. It's. I think they're acting. They care about their craft more. Does it always work? No, I'm not saying it does. I think that's one of the biggest features, and I think you're absolutely right. Put a few Brits in there. Those are the voices I expect to hear. Those are the voices that sometimes we do hear in game. So very cool.
So can we throw a little spoiler thing in?
Let's do it right now. Let's go right to spoilers, folks. If you don't already know, we do spoilers. We didn't do one for Turtles. I think it was all kind of self-explanatory. But we're going to do one for World of Warcraft. Speedy G's definitely got some stuff to talk about. So you have been warned in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler time.
Why'd they kill the main orc guy?
I don't know.
He was the best character in the whole fucking movie.
I knew you were going to go there. I just did.
Oh, he was so good. And it was like a wasted death. I mean, it was... The other one was dumb, killing the king. I don't even want to get it. That was so stupid. That made no sense. But killing that...
I don't know if they felt they had to balance it out somehow and kill one from one side and kill the other from the other side. I tried to even think back to some of the missions. I tried to make it game understandable, which I probably shouldn't have, and thought back to some of the missions. I don't know why.
Maybe I should know who the little baby is. Maybe the baby's someone in the game, and it just hasn't hit me yet.
Yeah.
That he grows to be somebody important. But I'm
pretty sure he does. Actually, I'm pretty sure he does. I just can't remember who.
But I told my daughter when the baby at the end cries and they pick him up, I go, shit, they would have just dropped him in the water and he would have drowned. People would fuck that when he drowned at him. That'd have been the end of the baby,
Yeah, that's and that's another tough thing about movies in general. You and I have had this discussion many times. Generally, when you kill characters, and especially one of the two main characters, the movie does not do well. People don't necessarily grasp it or like that. They don't go to a movie to be bummed out. To start to care for somebody and have them yanked away for save a few. And one of the go-to picks when we talk about this stuff is Gladiator. It's like an exception to the rule. It's okay. I don't mind. I get it. It's a sacrifice, and I don't know, man.
The build up to that has to be huge. Like my favorite movie,
exactly.
Braveheart. And of course, Braveheart, he dies. But the build up to that in that scene is like, Of course, you know. And you can do a death. You could do like an Obi-Wan in the first Star Wars, but it served a very important purpose.
Right.
And he kind of comes back in a spirit form and things like that. But yeah, this character was the one. I was really curious to see how did he solve all this? How was he going to solve all this in the end? Well, and we didn't see, he dies before the major battle. And yes, he's like kind of the, you know, the reason that they do everything, but I felt, that was a big letdown for me.
I would agree. So I would definitely agree.
Just have to throw that out.
No, I knew you wanted to touch on something.
Yeah, that was my only spoiler thing, because there's really not a lot of spoilers.
What did you think of the dwarves?
The dwarves and the elves. I mean, that's why I looked again at my daughter. I said, I need more dwarves. Yep. You know, it's like they just introduced dwarves so they could give them boomsticks to explain why the humans had boomsticks. Right. As far as I know, humans can't use no damn boomsticks in the game.
I don't believe they can either. Well, it depends on obviously it depends on your class. Things may have changed. Remember, you and I haven't played in a while, so I'm pretty sure it can't. So
it's making a character a little too heavy and a little.
they got to nerf them. Is that what you're saying?
Nerf that. They can't be using boomsticks. They already have armor, man.
Yeah, they got to nerf that for sure. What was the other thing I was going to say? The kids wanted more. I remember talking to them. They wanted more of the silliness. You remember what happens in game when you click on an NPC too much?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even the peons go and they would go, "Hey, be not that kind of orc." They wanted more silly crap like that. Like you weren't going to get that in this.
And that's funny because again, I told you I didn't approach this from a video game. I was hoping more that it'd be a good fantasy movie. That's what I was hoping. I go, okay, you're based on the game, but you really can't make a movie about a game. And it's the same mistake. If Assassin's Creed does this, it'll be the same mistake and it'll fail. If you concentrate too much on making it a video game, it's not going to be good. If you somehow take the great things about the video game and write a compelling, interesting story with these characters, then Assassin's Creed will be amazing. But if you're just going to give lip service to this is what happens in the game, this is what happens in the game, this is what happens, and this is how the game ends, I'm like, well, I already played the game, and it was a lot more fun than watching your movie. No offense, but, you know.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on what you're saying here, and by that logic, I mean simply that, you know, I guess, I don't know. They did. They tried. The homages are right. The homages are good. You've touched on a bunch of them, especially the towns and what places look like, and I don't know, man. I tried to separate myself from it, and I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't break it. I couldn't. I have to tell you this much: the first thing I wanted to do when I got home was what?
Oh yeah,
log back on and get to town.
Right at the beginning, when they go through the gate, and I think he yells, "Follow me, Horde," or he says something Horde. Right. I swear, if it had been opening night, I would have done it, but not in this quiet theater. I swear I would have yelled, "For the Horde!"
I'm surprised nobody did.
Maybe someone did, but I didn't get to see it opening night. I saw it much later because I was sick, and it was a quieter kind of crowd.
Very cool. So. Very cool. All right. So, you know, I think we're about done here. But in wrapping things up, I want to touch on something before we finish up that has to do with both of these movies. And I mentioned it earlier. And you kind of brought it up when you talked about the critics that are just slamming everything that's coming out now. Do you think that they're slamming everything that's coming out? Or do you think that for the critics at least, they are finally having their so-called hero fatigue? They're done with it. They're not giving anybody anything. What how do you feel about that?
Well, you know, it's interesting. They're slamming everything except for what is, quote, the art films.
Right.
So I think it is kind of like a backlash. That they are kind of saying that the general public, you guys are stupid and we don't want to see these stupid lowbrow movies anymore. We want to see things like The Nice Guys, which is an amazing film. I'm not knocking The Nice Guys. But they're upset that The Nice Guys failed. You know what I mean? And The Nice Guys didn't do anything. What, 1 week it was at 7, behind like all all these other movies. It'd been out for like a week, and it was at 7 already, behind things like
The Conjuring 2.
no, what's the one with the fraternity, the sorority girls? It's the one with
that Neighbors 2 or
Neighbors
something like that.
2, and behind Angry Birds, and behind, you know what I mean? They're just, it seems like in general, maybe they're just angry that they're not going to get to see, like they got into this, they're film aficionados, and they got into what they do for a living to view quality films and talk about films. And they're not going to get to do that much anymore because the general public just doesn't want to see those films. I hate to break to you. I mean, television, I mean, it's all reality TV and singing contests and crap. You have to pay to get anything decent.
Right.
And
but you don't think the timing of like let's key on this specific movie. Who releases Nice Guys in the middle of summer, sandwiched by hero movies?
Well, the thought process is called counter programming.
Right. They're hoping somebody else will go. Right.
And they said, well, everyone's gonna get superhero fatigue, and they're gonna want something different in comedy. Problem is, they released their comedy against a raunchy comedy, which is more popular with the younger moviegoer who go to more movies than, I hate to say it, people our age. A lot of them are just fucking, they do Netflix on everything. And we've had this argument that if they start releasing movies direct to stream and not just at theaters, you see how many people that will stay home and watch it. People our age will stay home and watch these movies. They don't like to go to movies anymore. You can see them. I saw them when I saw Warcraft. Miserable. Dad there had to go with the son. I wanted to bop him in the head. He kept checking his phone. I felt sorry for the poor kid. The kid was excited. The kid was telling the dad all kinds of stuff afterwards, and the dad was like, come on, man. Put your goddamn phone away and be nice to your kid. It's something he likes. Okay, yes, the movie was shit, but he likes it, man. He probably plays WoW. My guess is that kid was a player, and he was just so excited for that movie, and his dad pissed on his fucking whole thing. But that's what I mean, how I think that moviegoer is the moviegoer those critics are writing for too, and they're just telling them, stay away, you're not going to like it, stay away, because they probably aren't going to like it. But they're not getting the actual moviegoer, the actual person like you and me who just wants to go watch a movie. My daughter and I talk about it. Not everything gets 3D in opening night. Turtles didn't get that. Warcraft didn't get that. We'll go on cheap night. We'll go on matinee night, share a popcorn and watch a movie. It's something to do. It's fun. And if the movie turned out to be, no one died. I don't have cuts on me. It's like, it was fun.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? We have to say this too, on that, piggybacking that comment right there. We're heading into this Father's Day. You and I both have children, and it's supposed to be 115 degrees where we freaking live.
Yeah, there's air conditioning in the theater.
Outside, there's air conditioning, and I can eat. Depending on where I go. Yeah. Dude, I don't want to be anywhere else.
It's the one time I let the kid eat like 5 boxes of candy. I don't let her eat like that at home, but before we go to the movies, we go to because there's a dollar, like a Big Lots near there, which is like a dollar.
Oh, you hit the candy.
She's like 4 or 5 boxes of dollar candy and sticks it in every pocket she can, and the whole movie, it's like, comes out of there on a sugar high. It's like, I don't let her have that at home, but when we go to the movies, I go to town. I don't care.
That's funny. I think this is going to end up, it's hilarious. This is going to end up being a subject for another time, but clearly we're seeing critics, they are getting fatigued through this. I don't think it's the fans, the moviegoers, and or the true believers, but I don't know what we're going to do. I think more and more people, and I try to talk to this about with
people are going to ignore them.
Yeah, they're not only. It's funny, they're ignoring their articles and their breakdowns of these movies, but what people aren't ignoring, which I find interesting, is the actual app, the review app and the percentage and all that crap itself. We try not to take that into account. I try not to take that into account. Like I said, I like the X-Men. It didn't get great reviews, but I enjoyed it, and it's people need to stop looking at apps. People just need to
delete that app,
and go and have a good time.
I have that app, but I don't look at the reviews because the reviews are, it's a weird matrix. You have to understand how it really works.
Right.
But the only reason I have the app is I want to know what's coming up in the next few weeks.
Exactly.
I never look at what's going on. I always look what's coming. Okay, hey, we got this movie on that week. We got that movie. What I want to review, what I actually just want to see. That's the only reason I have it. But if you're a fan, don't see that app because you know they're going to slam the thing you love.
Right.
They're going to shit on it before because they get to see it 2 weeks before you do for free, and then they're going to shit on it.
Right.
And then they're going to ruin your experience. You're going to spend the whole 2 weeks before you've seen it defending it to your friends, and I think that's not cool. I think go. It's okay. Hey, if you go and you decide it's shit, that's okay to say it's shit. If it disappointed you, but I hate that other people are putting that on people before they've seen it. So I like that we do our reviews afterwards. We are just fans. We're not professionals. I don't get any money. You don't get any money. And I don't care if you see the movie or not. I just like sharing the what I liked or didn't like about a film.
Right. Well, as I look at my Flickster app right now, let's talk about next week. I think we're going to have to come up with something. I think we're going to have something a little bit different for you guys because I don't see anything directly related to our show necessarily, but that doesn't mean we won't review something in between. I mean, I don't know. Do you want to do Finding Dory?
Not really.
That was a joke.
I mean, we'll watch it. We'll probably end up watching it, but no, not really.
Let's these movies that are coming out right now are just.
Maybe we'll do a wrap up in the television series season.
Oh, you know what?
We talked about that.
No, we haven't, but. You know what we should do here real quickly? Let's add something here. I know this wasn't on the docket, but
careful.
Talk about
be behind.
No, I'm just gonna mention these things. You need to mention something. I'm gonna mention something here. Let's plug something we're watching, okay? That we really like, that we think people should watch. I'm gonna start, and I'm gonna go with Preacher. Okay? This show has blown me away. Don't worry, I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm just saying it's a really good show. If you're not watching it, it's got a little of everything. I think they're doing this justice. I have a million questions. I'm not familiar with this comic, and I can't wait to discuss it with Speedy G. So that might end up being an episode, but that's a plug. People, AMC, you can watch it on demand. Preacher is the shit, literally.
Awesome.
Check it out, you guys. What do you want?
Good to hear from you. Unfortunately, with Preacher, after the first episode, we were on vacation, and then I was sick. So I'm behind 2 episodes on Preacher. I'm behind 2 episodes on Game of Thrones too, by the way.
Ouch.
To be honest, I haven't been watching because I've been sick. I've been reading. If you guys want to know what I'm up to, I've been reading comics like crazy.
Plug your comic. What are you reading?
I am reading a lot of Valiant stuff because I've gotten a lot of these graphic novels. The first one on my Comixology, and I'm hooked. I'm going to start going. I don't know which one I want to start with. I don't know if I'm going to go with Bloodshot. I like the Ninja one. I mean, there's so many good ones, and I'm just going to go buy some of that stuff. And then I've been totally hooked on this new DC Rebirth, which is, they're restarting DC. I mean, it's got me. It's that the comic book shop is sucking my money dry right now. They need to stop because I'm tired of giving them my money, but I can't do it. I got to have them all until I know which ones. I'm sure a couple of them will fall off, and I won't stay with all of them. But right now, it's an addiction. So I'm reading more, probably because I'm not feeling so good. I can't stick through a TV show. I can read, put it down, fall asleep, read, fall asleep. But
that's still good. That's still good, though. That's a plug. That's something that people can do. They can pick up stuff on the comic book side. Listen to what Speedy G's telling you. Believe me, this man knows what he's talking about. When it comes to television, maybe I watch a little bit too much, but yes, trust me, watch Preacher if you don't enjoy it. Tell me why. Mention it in the comments. If you do, if you don't, talk to us. Let us know what you guys think out there.
I'm sure Preacher's doing well. I mean, I love that comic. So
yeah, it's I think that they are really doing a good job with the characters, especially. I remember you and I had a big discussion when this was in production, and everything that you mentioned to me then about the comic, a lot of that, all I'm going to say is that I'm seeing the visuals on screen, and that's what's grabbing me. That's what's grabbing me. So, and then I think also, to clarify too, the people in the cast are nailing it. I care about each one, even the idiots and the good guys and the bad guys. I care about everybody. I'm interested in everybody's freaking story right now, and that's the way to do a series. That's the way to continue it on for seasons. It reminds me a lot of The Walking Dead. I remember when they became a group, I wanted to know more about Rick. I wanted to know more about Glenn. I wanted to know more about Maggie. I wanted to know more and more and more, and that's what we got going on with Preacher. Each one of these characters, I want to know more about each one.
Well, think of it then from that point of view. Look at Ruth Nega and Dominic. What's Dominic's last name? The guy who's playing Preacher.
Yeah, I want to say Cooper, but I think that's his name.
Yeah, that sounds right. I'm so bad with names. But we just watched Warcraft, where they both were in.
Exactly.
And they were horrible.
They were horrible.
Horrible. And then you go watch Preacher, and they're like nailing it.
Because I think the characters are more suited to who they might even, their personalities, maybe even in real life.
Maybe
you've seen it. You've seen a touch of it, but wait.
I've seen the first episode. I saw the first episode, and I'll probably watch the other ones in this next week. My daughters are clamoring to get back on Game of Thrones before Sunday because we're 2 behind.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they remind me every minute I plop down near the television, and I'm not ready to invest. I'm just watching like channel surfing kind of thing. Well, Game of Thrones, Dad. I'm like, I'm not ready to invest, kid. I'll fall asleep.
Crazy. Cool. All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. What do you think, Speedy G?
Yeah, that's about it.
All right. Speedy G, great to have you back, man. Why don't you go ahead and say goodnight for the evening?
Good night. It's NyQuil time.
The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can rest medicine.
Damn straight.
All right, everybody. Once again, thanks for joining us. If you want to get a hold of us on Twitter, make sure that you can contact me directly at voodoo_57, or you can contact Speedy G at
Speedy_G33. I had a bar when we started.
Yeah, these toolbars, I think they come, they go. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Or you can get a hold of us at reel, that's REEL _comment or podcast, excuse me, on the Twitter feed. Check us out, say hi, let us know what you're up to, let us know what you're into, and we may actually mention you on the show. But thanks for joining us for this evening. It's great to be back, and we will be back next week with another great episode. But as always, be your own hero. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
Good night.
Namaste.